What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch, and today I want to talk about Mercy post-nerf. I'm not sure where it stands now in the community, but when the nerf first came in, there seemed to be a lingering sentiment that Mercy was all of a sudden not good anymore, and I wanted to make this video to say she definitely is still insane, and I'm going to try to show you why. In fact, you might go as far to say she still may be the best support, she just doesn't define the meta. As it turns out, as Blizzard had to walk back the ultimate on cooldown situation, post-nerf, she's more in line with the other supports, but I would still say, in many ways, at the top of the pack. Although the context does always matter, and it's going to depend on the team comps that you're running, but Mercy sort of has the effect that Soldier 76 does in the DPS category, where Soldier sort of just can be pretty good at any sort of stage of fight, and is workable in most situations, and his major weakness being that he doesn't have as sharp of an edge. Mercy's in that same way, where there's very few team comps right now that I would say you don't want a Mercy, probably being close range rushdown comps or dive comps, but as long as you have that one ranged character that you can utilize in order to have your backline escapes to, as well as a good target for your damage amp, everything else sort of falls in place and Mercy just works. Her ultimate isn't as strong necessarily as other ultimates, but at the same time, it's a bit more reliable because it lasts so long, and it's much easier to try to make a supportive play by getting an instant res on a teammate than it is to carefully get sound barrier to hit your team at the right time so that they can utilize it. Other support ultimates can achieve greater heights, but they're a little less dexterous in their applicability. However, with all this being said, what's required of you as a Mercy player in order to get this value that I'm speaking of is some really sound Mercy fundamentals. Knowing how to use your positioning and movement in order to dodge the three major ways that you're going to die: backline harass damage, range damage, and ultimates. Dodging all three of those effectively is how you're really going to shine as a Mercy player, and if you do so, all of the other value that she gets sort of just falls in its place. This is an area that I find Mercy players sometimes struggle with, but all supports in general, and if it's something that you master and take it upon your own responsibility to keep yourself alive by utilizing the shape of the battlefield, you're really going to get a lot more value out of Mercy and start to see where she shines. Now here I'll show some clips of my moment-to-moment decision making in order to avoid damage in an attempt to keep my team alive while making it either impossible or very expensive in order to focus me as the Mercy player in order to have the biggest impact that I can. As this team fight breaks out on King's Row, there's a few elements in place. The enemy has a Widow who's taking positioning out in the distance, a Tracer gets into our backline, which is positioning she gets for free, and our tanks are brawling around the statue, feeding up our Zarya charge and holding point presence. There's a couple mistakes that I see support players make oftentimes in this situation, and it's actually a mistake that my team makes. When this Tracer's behind you, don't tunnel vision in on her, assuming that your team is supposed to run back to just outright kill her. It's not really how Overwatch works. Whenever there's a mobility character in your backline, they pretty much just get that space for free. You have to concede it. There is no way physically to stop them from playing there. What you have to do in response is what I call a dig, which is to say, concede that the backline is getting harassed, so you have to close in closer to your tanks and the core of your team in order to make it impossible for that Tracer to really get in the muck of you. She can't really fight multiple of you at once. What she wants to do is isolate you, and oddly enough, this is what a couple of my teammates do. They go off in the left side, fighting off in there for an extended period of time and eventually get picked off. But the important thing to note here is that I'm both able to dodge the Tracer and the Widowmaker by flowing in and out of the combat of this fight. When I dig into the fight, I'm staying behind my Rhine shield or using the map geometry, the statue, in order to avoid her lines of sight. And as soon as I know I'm vulnerable, I quickly reposition to get behind something at a safe angle, but not too far back so the Tracer can come kill me for free. Although we lose this team fight, and everything starts to crumble. A little bit unfortunate that I didn't get to res a tank. Probably should have went off and got the Zarya here. And the Rhine died later, which is another issue. If your tanks die first, it's better for Valkyrie because you can res them back up, whereas resing my poor DPS friend in order to get sniped by a Widow didn't really get much value. But the Mercy fundamentals here still made it so that I wasn't the one making mistakes. At least I don't think so. And that's the best you can do as a support player oftentimes, especially as Mercy. Avoiding the damage, not getting yourself killed, and you'll eventually win through attrition over multiple team fights, and over time, you'll start to be able to gain rank and win fights that you otherwise would have lost if you made a mistake, and that's how you really succeed and shine as a Mercy player. The other thing you can do is get on the comms to make sure that your team don't end up fighting out of your line of sight, tell them to come back to the fight so you can heal them, but sometimes they just make their own call and die really far from you, and there's not a lot you can do. But here's another example of using positioning and movement in order to avoid damage altogether, this time on attack horizon. Staying with my Rhine here to make sure that the shield is blocking the damage, and as the fight breaks out and a teammate needs healing, I soar across the map in order to get to my diva, but also keep repositioning to use my team and the map as blocking, avoiding the angles of contact, and as it shifts and the battle takes shape, it takes a really odd shape this time. It's not a horizontal fight, but kind of just a mix of chaos that keeps happening. From moment to moment, I'm looking to get to who needs healing as long as it's safe for me, and doing so in a way where I avoid damage sources and just keep pivoting to a safe angle in the fight. And because of this, and in contrast to the enemy Mercy who played Pharmacy, a really questionable angle there, trying to hold overhead of the side of the point here, because their Mercy doesn't stay alive and overcommits to a bad fight. Well, in this next fight, I have Valk. She doesn't. She tries to get off another res without Valk, and that's pretty much just game over. Being the Mercy that stays alive longer in order to get Valk earlier and more efficiently is a massive difference maker, because Valk is such a dexterous ultimate, guys. It isn't strong enough to stop the damage of some of the damaging ultimates and combos in the game, but it is enough in order to dominantly win team fights when those combos aren't involved. And because Mercy gets Valk more quickly than some of those combos, like for instance, Graviton Dragon Strike takes quite a while to build up, it really allows Mercy's weaknesses to sort of be pushed to the side, and more often than not, resing a mistake with Valk is going to be more powerful than trying to outplay it with a perfectly timed defensive ultimate. Not to mention there's a whole nother element to this as well, that I think Mercy actually is a very interesting sieging character. I keep using that word, but so many teams in matchmaking want to play this choke style, which you never see in a pro game, because with a little bit of coordination, it gets exposed for how weak it is, but without any coordination, teams can struggle to get past this choke ever, or know exactly what to do. But if you build up Valkyrie, the 20 seconds of damage amp you get with it means that you're automatically going to win a shield break war. Whatever shielding they have at the choke in your way, it's not going to withstand everyone being able to do more damage, guaranteeing you that space, and really opening up the fight to require the enemy to get the heck out of there, giving you a chance to finally get through some of those annoying chokes. Side note, despite the fact of that principle working, I really wish I could have got this overcommitment into the fight back. It's a mistake that I try to limit, but you have to remember as a Mercy player, if your teammates are too far out, it isn't your responsibility to babysit their bad positioning, because especially as long as you just stay alive and maintain the fight that you do have, you're likely going to be able to get a res anyway. And I think that's one of the most common mistakes I see made, where a Mercy player tries to go into the fight to heal someone that's far too deep and then gets herself killed because of it. Finding myself in a crossfire here against a sim who auto-locks on you, one of the easiest ways to die in the game. And of course, we lose this push, despite the fact that we all get on point and got tons of kills. Well, we all had to keep our lives up, and this is something I spoke about at great length, criticizing the Team USA, and I make the same mistake, so hey, we're all human, but the lessons live on. Support players stay away from the objective whenever possible in order to avoid getting shut down in the way that I did here. Well, guys, that's everything that I got for today about Mercy. She's still an incredibly powerful support character, although her mid-fight res requires quite a bit of a commitment. It's still basically an ultimate on cooldown. It's just much harder to use, allowing for it to be really powerful, but not dominate the game. Yet still one of the best things that you can have on your team. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, please leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link in the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, dank memes, and talk about the balance of the game. Mercy is still insane. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.